Welcome to our show, and welcome to our guests, David Alexanian and Ewan McGregor, who are here today to talk about the film A Long Way Down, the exclusive director's cut. How are we both doing today, gentlemen?
Very good, thank you. You?
Great, man.
Great. Excellent. Just want to start out, and hopefully you could talk a little bit about maybe some of the differences that we might see in the film release as opposed to the series, the BBC series.
Well, I mean, the one thing about the film is that you're going to be able to see it uninterrupted for 2 hours on a very big screen, because it's actually not playing in independent movie theaters. It's playing in these, the big old movie theaters, AMC and theaters like that. The other thing is it's in high definition, which we aren't broadcasting on TV. So we basically went and tried to find, you can imagine taking 1,200 hours of footage and bringing that down to 10 hours. That was pretty tough. But then once we had those 10, we pretty much knew what we wanted to turn into the film, and we went with that. We wanted to just keep it compelling and moving, and because it's uninterrupted, really feel like you're on the journey,
Absolutely. And speaking of the journey, I was also curious as to what some of the challenges that you faced along the way. Was there ever a time where you felt like you were in over your heads and said there's no way we're going to make it, or was it just positive attitudes and sunshine the whole time?
No, it's interesting that on the first trip long way round, there was never a moment, I can say honestly, where I wished I was not on the journey, or wished I was at home, or I was completely focused on the journey and driven by it. And then in the Africa trip, there was maybe 2 days, I think, where I had the feeling that I wished I was somewhere else. It wasn't Africa's fault. It was solely because the riding was very difficult. Some of the riding became very hard for me in the Sudan with deep sand and excessive heat. There's something, it's very difficult to ride a motorcycle on sand anyway, but riding quite a big heavy bike with panniers full of your camping equipment and stuff was, I felt, almost beyond my abilities. And I had a couple of crashes in the Sudan on this day. There was one day we were riding down the street, it was just deep sand, the street, and there were kids running around and animals and donkeys, and I was just terrified in case I came off and hit someone or an animal or something. So that was scary. But I got better as we go along. The thing is, you're riding every day for 3 months, and really on this trip, I think we had a handful of days off. We just rode all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, and there was one thing in particular that made this journey difficult, was that there were a couple of marks that we had to hit, and a couple of times that we had to be in a certain place, and one of them was trying to get to the south of Egypt in a town called Aswan to catch this ferry that only operates once a week, if it operates at all, down into Sudan, because you can't drive into Sudan. You have to either fly into Khartoum or you have to catch this ferry. So reality is, when you're sitting there in London and looking at a bunch of maps and trying to calculate mileage, you can't help but be optimistic. And, it was just the first half of the trip was very tight. And, when you're traveling through countries, even Northern Africa might be a little bit easier in some ways to, Equatorial Africa than Southern Africa, it put us under a lot of pressure, So that was one of the major hurdles, was trying to get through that and sort of keep everybody in sync and making sure that we were enjoying moments as opposed to just worrying about the next day,
Absolutely. And kind of the adverse of that is, what were some of the things that surprised you or really delighted you about the trip? Either favorite places that you visited or things that really seemed to surprise you.
There's a great many favorite experiences on a daily basis. The highs and lows on a trip like this are quite extreme, and they come at you very quickly. 1 minute you're having a great time, the next minute, you're challenged by some of the things you see. But also, the biggest, I wasn't surprised, because I never thought it would be any other way, but we had so many negative, we had an awful lot of negative input before we left by people who kind of told terrifying stories of traveling in Africa and made it sound like it would be a terribly dangerous experience. And our experience of it was not that. Our experience of traveling in Africa was that people were very enthusiastic and friendly and interested, and if they weren't, they just minded their own business and didn't bother us. So we didn't come into any trouble at all, and people would have had you believe different. My highlight, I suppose, was Ethiopia. I found Ethiopia to be spectacularly stunning. The mountainous region in the northern part of Ethiopia is the huge highland area, and found it really beautiful, and the people there were spectacular.
And also, I'd like to know if you could maybe talk a little bit about the involvement with some of the charities that were involved with the film, such as UNICEF and Writers for Health.
Yeah, well, on both trips we had UNICEF as our main charity, and we visited 3 UNICEF projects in Long Way Round and 3 on Long Way Down, and we always found them to be the most moving parts of the trip. Obviously, with UNICEF, they're a charity that's set up to protect the world's children from hard times and dangers, and so the chances are when you're doing a visit with UNICEF, you're going to see children who are living in difficult situations. So it's difficult to witness, and it's difficult to kind of ride away from as well. But for the fact that you've visited with UNICEF and you've seen that people are there trying to help those kids to make their lives easier, and that's become really important to us. It's a fantastic charity. I'm so proud to be associated with them, and I think the work they do is really spectacular. And the kids we've met that they help are just always great, always spirited and friendly and happy. I mean, that's the other thing you're struck by as you travel through Africa. I mean, by our standards, these people have absolutely nothing, and they have very difficult lives, and but yet they seem to be much happier than we are.
Great. And then also, I was hoping that maybe you could share a little anecdote of something that happened along the way that we might not get a chance to see in the film, or something that particularly struck you as being amazing, or otherwise, something that we might want to know about.
It's all in there.
Jam-packed.
Truly, I mean, we'll sit here and think of something maybe, but we used to talk about, I guess it's more of an English expression than American, which is warts and all, And it's just, there's no setups in this thing, and I don't know if people saw the last one or whatever, but I guess what's different about it is, it's a documentary. We don't, even though we're on the Fox reality channel, it's not a reality show where, there are 80 people standing by just in case something happens. I mean, we again sort of had one of these trips where we were, very fortunate, or, there was an angel looking out for us or something, because we didn't bump into anything messy or ugly, and we could have. We were always close to something that could have gone the other way, maybe you could say. But we get through these things. We've been able to, and there's no second take. It's not, oh, that was interesting, but let's try to do it again, and maybe that'll be more interesting. We're filming it on the fly, and if we don't get it, it's not in there. You know what I mean? And the truth of the matter is, we get some good stuff, and we put it in the film. Great.
And I guess my last question is, what's next on the horizon? Are you guys going to go long way out and go to the moon on motorcycles, or?
Yeah, that's right. That's the next trip. You've spoiled us. We've been foiled. No, I don't know. We'll see. I think the next one will be a way off. I think we'll take time to regroup and think about. These 2 trips happen quite close together, with like a 3-year span between Long Way Round and Long Way Down, and they take such a long time to plan for, and they take quite a long time to, a very quick time, because our deadlines are always very short, but they take a long time to look after they've been edited, once they come out, and we look after them from there on in as well. So I think we'll wait a little while before the next one.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. And again, the film is Long Way Down, the exclusive director's cut, and it will be a limited release to theaters nationwide on July 31st. And for more information and where we can find out more about that, we can visit fathomevents.com or longwaydown.com. And is there anything else that you'd like to include today, gentlemen?
That's great. Ask people to donate money to UNICEF to help the kids. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, and please take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Steve, thanks.